Oh, hey.
Hey, I always see that open and think, who are those young men?
Yeah, right. That's exactly what I think.
Oh Lord. Uh, seems like
So how you doing?
yeah, I'm okay today. I think I
Yeah.
went out and ran errands and got outside a little bit. It's just been dreary here. It's cloudy and rainy, and it's not even rainy. It's just kind of
Yeah. No, I
goes.
I totally understand. 3 days of that, and you just start going, ooh.
Yeah, it just kind of goes. So, but talking with you always cheers me up. So
Oh, well,
makes me feel better,
you're
which is
kind.
which is really good because we're going to get into user generated content, and so that's kind of what this is about. I mean, we talk, we have conversation, we're generating some content, and it's all good stuff.
UGC, baby.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So, talk about user generated content. What is it
Well,
exactly?
yeah, we'll call it UGC a lot today, just because that's the vernacular, if you will, in the marketing industry, especially social media marketing. Um, User generated content was this brilliant idea where this is probably, well, let's see, how long has the internet been around now?
A long
So
time. Yeah.
from almost the beginning, with services like Facebook, or I'm sorry, before that was MySpace,
Hmm.
um, YouTube, and all these different chat boards and things like that. People realized very quickly that they didn't have to be on the hook to create all the content themselves. And in fact, better content could be had if you invited people who were participating in the website, visitors of the website, people who wanted to like create an account and be a part of a community or whatever. If you relied on those users to generate, create, and then share that content on those platforms, and you know, that's really the beginning of it. I wish I could think of like the first one that was that way, but there's so many of them. I mean, I remember back to Flickr and
Oh yeah.
just
I remember all the messenger boards.
yeah,
You
yeah,
could go to the different messenger boards, and even on Craigslist, they had boards you could go to. And what were and I don't even know, maybe they still do that. They had the places that you could gather online, and then you would gather in person.
chat rooms, things like that. Then yeah, meet.com or meetup.com.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was the one.
there's a
Yeah,
lot.
but yeah, essentially, and the long and short of it is the user generated content is content created by people who are a part of something bigger than any one of them, by themselves.
Hmm.
That could be a lot of things. It doesn't necessarily have to be a website or platform like a social media platform like Facebook, which is nothing but user generated content. Well, and advertising, but um, it could also be a brand. It could also be a company,
Hmm.
and just people who love a particular brand or company oftentimes will share things that they love about that brand or company and share it with the brand or company and say, hey, look at this. I made a t-shirt. My son showed me this t-shirt. He didn't make it actually, but he found it somewhere, and it was um it was at Costco they have those dollar hot dogs or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was so I don't even remember what the t-shirt said. It was sort of a meme, but it was playing on that Costco hot dog, that dollar hot dog, and he was so enthralled with the shirt that he bought one, and a friend of his bought one, and they are headed to Costco this afternoon to go stand in line to get a dollar hot dog and show everybody at Costco their t-shirts. Which he
Wow.
just thought is the greatest thing. Well, that's user generated content. I mean, that's people who are a fan of something, a product or a service, and they want to create content and find a place to share it just as out of pure love for the product or service.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I think that that's really good. And user generated content's been around a long time. It's called a referral.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, when somebody refers you or refers somebody else to you or
Or
refers
review.
a
Yeah.
brand or whatever, I mean, this is just an extension. Going online is an extension of really a referral or an endorsement or a testimonial. It's just done to me a little bit differently. So that's kind of the way I look at it. So let's look at some examples. I mean, we've given some back in the day examples, but um, you know, when you talk about user generated content, it's all over the web. I mean, all the social platforms are examples of it. All the reviews, testimonials are examples of it. If you have people that write a blog post about what you do and send it to you and say, "Man, I loved your service," or whatever. When people do photos and videos of the things that you've done, I've seen customers that will photo or video a technician in their home and put it up on their social. Just so great. When I had guys here putting my stove together, it's been 4 or 5 years ago. I did one that we fed. I had a big pot of soup. I make that my chicken vegetable soup every year. And I had a big pot of it here, and I said, "Hey guys, y'all hungry?" And they were starving, and so I fed them. And so I took a picture, and feeding my crew,
Nice.
and shared it. So that's user generated content. Um, Discussions boards. Sometimes you'll have a comment section at the bottom, where you can comment on things depending on the format that it's in. Gosh, I don't know. I know Quora. I don't know if Quora is still there, but question and answers. So
Well,
those,
some brands do it.
yeah.
There are many brands, especially when you get into more like brands that require technical support.
Mhm.
Um, I remember, I mean, I've had many experiences back when I used McAfee, which I don't use anymore, but that's another story. Sorry, McAfee. As my antivirus software on my PC, and weird things were happening.
Yeah.
And so I needed help, and they suggested that I go to the user forum to see if I could find help there. That was like their first line of support. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. I mean, sending me to their customer. I mean, I'm a customer and they're going to have other customers handle their support requests. Well, I went over there and it's a vibrant community. I mean, people posting all day long, every day, asking questions, getting help, very willing to jump in and help other people that are experiencing problems with the product. And these are all people that McAfee has entrusted with as a support channel.
Yeah.
And that's user generated content. Not only user generated content, but user supplied support, which is like the ultimate.
Well, look at Wikipedia. I
Yeah,
mean, the
right.
whole thing was user generated. I
Yes.
mean, that's why it was so vibrant for so many years. It was a user generated entire platform, with information and all different kind of stuff on it. So, yeah, I mean, that's just very, very interesting, all that. So let's talk about what is the impact. I mean, we're talking about this kind of in broad terms because even what we're doing right now, live streams are considered generated UGC, as I should say. I get caught between saying it out loud and using the acronym. So, um, anyway, the impact of
Yeah.
it on brand trust, I think,
The
is really important.
trust, credibility, authenticity. That's the key. When people, it's like my dad used to say, never ask a barber if you need a haircut, or never ask a barber if they give a good haircut.
Yeah,
Because they're all going to say, "Of course I do." Well, that's how it is with any product or service. Every marketer is going to say, "Oh, it's the best. We have the best this, that, or the other," and people are aware of that. They don't trust marketers. They don't trust marketing messages. What they do trust is when a user of that product or service goes out of their way, and sometimes they have to go out of their way. I mean, like, it's hard sometimes on some of these platforms to leave UGC,
hmm
and but if you go out of your way and you do that, and you are extolling the virtues of the brand or the product or the service or the whatever, and talking about how great it is, that goes a long way toward building authenticity. In other words, the brand doesn't just say it about themselves, the customers say it about the brand. And that wins huge points in the authenticity and trust category.
Well, that's that old saying, don't toot your own horn, let others toot it for you. So,
That's the metaphor I should have gone with. Yeah.
well, I'm glad I could help there. Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's one of those things, and we're going to get into this a little bit when we talk about SEO. But I want to just drop it right here. The Google's whole SEO deal is EEAT. So experience, expertise, trustworthiness, and authoritiveness. And user generated content is all those things. If you have that on your website, on your social media accounts, all that is really, really strong in the EEAT, which is exactly what Google's looking for. So, yeah, that's really interesting. So here's a real big issue that I think that happens, especially in small businesses. It's easy for a Starbucks or GoPro or any of these big companies, that have thousands of people coming through their doors or using their product on a daily basis. And they've got GoPro's got one of the most exciting social media platforms because people post all their, the stuff that they're doing, the boats and skiing and,
it's not about the product. It's about what people are doing with the
product. Yeah. But that's still user generated content. So
yeah. But I mean, that's what makes it compelling. And not every brand has that, but GoPro certainly does.
Yeah. I mean, they've got it. Another one is it's your son's favorite clothing store.
Patagonia.
Patagonia, yes, that's another one that's very, if you are a fan of Patagonia clothing, man, you are a fan. Starbucks is interesting because even their user generated content, some of it's negative. But have you ever read these negative things that says, "Oh my God, it's like burnt beans, but I go every day."
Yeah. It's like a backhanded compliment.
Exactly. They burn the beans, but I can't live without it. So it's just, that's still user generated content. We all laugh about it as we go and, go to Starbucks. So
yeah, that falls into the category of there's no such thing as bad publicity. I mean,
exactly. So
there is, but
yeah, and I do know that. So my point to ask you is, how does a small independent service business, retail store, mom and pop shop, how do they get and are able to enhance their brands, as small as they are, with UGC?
Oh, well, it's a difficult proposition because UGC is a numbers game for any brand. The more customers you have, the bigger the numbers of customers, the more chance that you're going to have a few who really enjoy creating content or who are, just absolutely, infatuated with themselves and love to take selfies and pictures and whatever and share, and your brand just happens to be in the way, right? So it gets incorporated into what that other person is doing. Just as they go about their pretty selfish and self-centered life. Useful tools.
Yeah.
Useful idiots, maybe. But, a small company, you just serve fewer customers on a daily basis. You have fewer customers on your roster. And so as a result, you probably are going to have fewer people who are really interested in helping create content that promotes your brand. But they're out there. The number one way that you can, the number one thing that people have become more and more accustomed to doing, and it's UGC, are leaving reviews. So that's the number one thing I think that you can do. Did you know, though, that reviews aren't necessarily just text? You can share images, you can share video. And so you might encourage people, hey, look, I noticed you're one of our followers on our social media. account. Really appreciate that. And I also just kind of checked out your profile, and you love to post stuff. I was wondering if you might leave a review for us, but instead of just doing a text review, maybe you could do a video review. What would you think about that? And seeing if they'd be willing to do something that's a little more interactive, a little more engaging in terms of the kind of user-generated content. So I don't know. Those are some things I'm thinking of just offhand.
Well, I think there's a couple of things that first and foremost, nobody's going to do anything if you don't ask them. I mean, that's the first thing, is you really do have to ask people to engage. But here's the other thing I find really interesting. So if you follow me, y'all are going to know I'm not online very much. Well, you know what? Because I'm not online very much, I really don't expect a lot of followers and a lot of people to engage me. I mean, people know that if they message me, I'll eventually get back to them. It may be a week, but I'll get back to them on Facebook because I'm not a big social media guy. I'm just not. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me to not be a big social media guy and then get upset that I don't have followers and people, on my feeds and doing this and doing that and all this kind of stuff is crazy. But that's what I see a lot of time is people want engagement, but they don't want to be engaging. So I think that's another thing that we really have to look at, that if we want to enhance our customer engagement through user-generated content, then we have to be engaging. I'm very fortunate. I've got people on our staff that engage and, do things on our company brand. But personally, I'm terrible. And I admit to that. But I'm okay if people don't follow me. It doesn't make me any difference. If people are so interested in me, they want to know what I do every day, I start to wonder about them, to be honest with you, because I'm one of the most boring people I know of. So does that make sense, though, that you have to be able to have conversations with people. You have to engage with people. You have to be able to talk to them and want to talk to them.
Be engaging. Yeah. Make it seem like fun to actually engage with your brand or engage with you as the person behind the brand. No, what you put into it is what you get out of it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's always been that way. But it requires a lot of work. The only other kind of user-generated content that you can expect if you're not really engaging with your audience is the kind of user-generated content that people create when there's something in it for themselves to do it. And oftentimes that's, building a name for themselves, and they may be using you, at your expense as a way to latch on to other, in other words, usually it's the critics or the bad experiences and things like that people are motivated to share without being prompted to do so.
And I think a really big example of this is when people only engage with their clients when they leave a bad review.
Yeah.
If you're not engaging with your clients when they leave a really good review, you're missing something in that. I mean, to engage with everybody that leaves you a review is really, really important. If you're just engaging in those that leave negative reviews, then people say, well, he doesn't really care unless somebody leaves him a bad review. And so that's another thing to think of. So let's talk a little bit. I hit the wrong button, but eventually I'll get there. How do you use user-generated content as social proof?
Well, we've kind of already talked about this a little bit earlier. I jumped the gun and just talked about how, posting or people who post content about a brand instead of the brand saying, hey, we're great, when customers say, no, they're really good. That means more. That's what we call social proof. It's proof that real users or customers of a brand or a product or service are pleased and happy with what they get, that the story that the brand is telling about itself is true and can be trusted. So it's proof that it's real. So that's probably about all that I would say about that, other than the influencer marketers that have sprung up. That it's interesting. Not all of them are trusted. Not all of them have the reputation of giving it straight. That that sometimes they're just shilling for the brand or the company that's hired them and paid them a lot of money, but they don't really use the product, or they don't really care about the product or anything else. And so it can bite you in the butt. A whole industry has sprung up around user-generated content and social proof, and people are getting more and more nuanced about what they trust and how they get the information that they trust. So something to be aware of.
No, I hadn't thought about influencers earlier when you were talking, and thought, that's an interesting, because that can be a slippery slope, but some of them are very genuine.
Oh
So
yeah, no, I mean,
it's really interesting, but people need to know that companies actually give them products and
well,
things.
they're required
Yeah,
to make that known when they're talking about a product or a
right.
service that they really like, to say, I've been compensated by this company, as an to be an advertiser for them, and but I want you to know that they gave me 100% control over what I said about their product. They did not try to control my message at all. They didn't edit me or threaten to, that kind of a deal. So in other words, they're trying to say, I'm independent. You can trust what I have to say. Um, Even though I've been paid for it, that's beside the point. Well, is it really beside the point? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
never look a gift horse in the mouth. You don't want to slap the hand that feeds you. So, or bite the
exactly.
hand that feeds you. Let's see, how many
Exactly.
metaphors can we cram into this one today?
I don't know. We can try. We can try to get some more in here. Okay. Hey Terry, thank you so much for the thumbs up. By the way, I really appreciate that. Uh, we we are so thankful for those that come here every single week. So thank you so much. One of the things I'll tell you about leveraging user generated content for SEO is going back to that EEAT thing again, that I think is really, really important. And I don't know if you've noticed lately, but in the past probably 2 months, Reddit, which is totally user generated content, is finding itself at the top of search engines all over the place. And it's the very first time that this has ever happened. I mean, Facebook has been there, before, and there's a couple of other companies that have been there, from time to time. But Reddit right now is like everywhere because it's 100% user generated content, and there's something on there about everything. I mean, it's an unbelievable platform that's been around for a long time. And what's really interesting is the people who have generated all that user generated content are now mad because Reddit's going public. And so Reddit's making money on all the user generated content. So it's this big, circular thing that happens. But the point is, when Google can't find somebody that has user generated content, you got a first referral from Reddit yesterday. There it is. Look at there.
Yep.
Perfect example. But if Google cannot find anything, they're gonna go and look and see and try to source user generated content. This is why it's so important for you to try. Now I'm going to give everybody 2 tips on how to do this, and it's pretty doggone easy. You ready? Any company can do this. Here it is. At the end of whatever it is, if you're at a cash register, ask the customer if you could take a selfie and right there with the customer and do one of these and put it on your page, put it on your social page. Every time, if they say no, then don't do it. But there's a lot of people that it's going to say yes. When you've got a technician in the home, if you're a technician, just say, hey, do you mind if I stand here by your fireplace and we take a picture? No, nobody's going to mind. Your fireplace, your whatever it is, your plumbing, and just did this deal. I just did this thing, and take a picture with the technician in it, and invite them to be in it. If say, I'd love you to be in it with me, you're going to get some takers. You're going to get some people that say no, but if you never ask, you're not going to get it. So that's one really, really easy way to do it. You put it in your reviews. You can put it on social. There's so many places that you can do it. You can
And you
sit,
can geotag. You can
yeah,
geotag the image too.
geotag doesn't really work in SEO that much, but it does in social. So I
Yeah.
think that's really good too. But it's one of those things that you got to think outside the box. The other thing is, we have a bot named Jenny. That's what we call her, and or call it. It's not really a her or him. I know my wife said I'm using Claude today. He's really very. I thought, that's weird how we do that, isn't it? There's
We anthropomorphize, and we always have as human beings. We do that a
yeah,
lot.
it's
Yeah,
just
no, I think it's a compliment to the developers of the AI that they've done such a good job with it that it feels, like you're engaging in a conversation with someone.
yeah. I mean, it's really awesome. But my point here is, it not only is a sales assistant up front, it is a local. I'm going to make sure I preface that is a local SEO builder, and it's fantastic. It's as somebody that's been in SEO for almost over 20 years now, part of that community. It's one of the slickest things I've ever seen, and I'm really excited about it. So, um, and it cost about maybe a third, if not a quarter, of what normal local SEO would cost. So I'm just saying it's I think it's a game changer. So if you're having a hard time doing, getting your user generated content for SEO, there's two ideas right there that are pretty, one doesn't cost you a thing and the other one costs you a little bit of money. But hey, just figure it out, just do what you got to do. But I think it's real important to know there are some things out there that you can do. And there's some trends, and using AI, it's one of the trends. Using AI, having it, impact what's going on websites, what's going on social, all those things. Now, I will say, Google is coming out with a bunch of fraud, and I just read it this morning. They're coming out with a bunch of stuff about AI generated content and all. Don't be afraid of all that. You've got stories, you guys have real things that you talk about. So that, that's a different kind of a deal. So just know, if you're talking about real things that you've done, real experiences, real, expertise that you have, what you've done at people's homes, where you've done it, all those kind of things, that matters.
Yeah.
So, but
Think of it
using
this way.
that. Go ahead.
If you're using AI to game the system and generate a whole bunch of content out there in the world to try to win an advantage in the search engine wars, then you're doing it wrong and it's not going to work for you. But if you're using AI as an assistant or a helper to help you convey a real story about your business and your customers and the relationships that you have with them and the services that you provide, then Google's not going to have a problem at all with you using AI to help tell that story, because the story itself is authentic. It's the story itself that has to be authentic. And if you're using AI to tell inauthentic stories, then shame on you and stop it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is you're going to find some things when users start generating this content. If you pay attention, you're going to find out how people really find you. You're going to find out the terminology. You're going to find out some of the things that you probably don't know about your business. You probably don't know how people search, all those great things. So, having that as part of your modus operandus, if you will. Speaking of being just really latent with crazy sayings, uh, the point is, if you pay attention, you're going to learn some things and learn how to talk to people, and maybe learn some things that you need to put on your website to attract more people that talk that way, that search that way, that look at things that way. So those are all really important things. So
One thing in this list, real quick, that I'll call out that I think is interesting, and it's a good note, and that's the fact that the future, and trends wise, people are trending more toward favoring authentic videos versus highly produced videos. And this is interesting because for a long time, the trend was going a different way. And part of that was because anybody with a camera or a cell phone could start creating user generated content and videos. And so there was just this, the field was just awash with junk, and the signal to noise ratio was so off the charts that it was hard to find anything really worth watching. And so people started thinking, well, if it's well produced, then this company or this brand must be authentic because they have the money and enough success from what they do to be able to afford production. And so they started, there was a trend toward really needing to see better and better production. And that has shifted again. And part of that is in response to AI, because people are starting not to trust the really slick look, slick stuff and all of that. They're okay with rough around the edges, especially when it comes to content that is championing a brand or a product or service. So it's okay if you're standing in front of some, if it's just you at the restaurant sitting in the booth with it's noisy all around and you're just doing a quick selfie video saying, I'm at the location of Longhorn Steakhouse over here, and I just had the best experience with my waiter. He's just a really cool guy. His name is such and such. If you, are hungry for a steak, I definitely recommend coming over here and asking for him. He's just a great guy. I'm leaving him a good tip. And that's all I wanted to say, right? I mean, it's no high production value. It's not some fancy thing. It's just real. And people like real. People like and they tend to favor that, and that seems to be the trend again, where it's headed again.
No, and I think TikTok has had a huge impact on that.
Yes, yeah.
So many people that just stand up and say, "I can't." I can't tell you in my news feed how many TikTok people are making the news based on what they've said, and so it's kind of crazy. Yeah, I think there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot to user-generated content. There's diversity that you get from all the different people that that partake of your services or your products. But the authenticity. And here's the other thing: everybody's got these doggone phones right here. I've got one too. That's my pup. It's my old pup. But we've got these phones. They have better cameras than the cameras that I had when I was a kid. I mean, and I was in a photography class. Better cameras than that. They're just fantastic cameras. So use them. I mean, that would be my thing. Use them, and get other people to use theirs and generate some of this great content. Anything else you want to add?
That's it. UGC is what makes the internet go around, and figuring out how to use it, for your brand can be very rewarding. It can cause the kind of viral sensation that businesses, local businesses especially, always dream of. But it can be elusive too, and it can be hard to do. So you've got to commit to a strategy that really engages with people and invites them to be a part of your community and to create content in support of that product or service. So, it's worth trying to do.
Agreed. So Spark Live is also released as a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Podvine, or your favorite player. And next week, I actually saw this. We're going to talk about business reviews and the impact on purchasing decisions. A couple of new stats have come out. It's going to be a really interesting conversation as we go through next week. And again, Terry, thank you again for the thumbs up and your comment, and see if you can get that Reddit user to give you some UCG or UGC. I do it always backwards. That's where that happens. Anyway, have fun. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.